At the end, told you this would happen. This is the most important part. That's why you had to stick to the end. I remember this is how I got the nickname Goodness. Why are young black men in trouble? There's a few things that are going on with black young men are in trouble. And if we're not careful, the situation that we're in right now is actually going to spread until so many young men find themselves lost, homeless, broke, no woman, and ultimately taking their own life. It is that serious. So actually, how do we get here? We talk about Kevin Samuels all the time on this channel, and I think sometimes I have to break down what Kevin Samuels was trying to do because there are people who don't understand the purpose of his mission. And he was actually trying to save young men. He was actually trying to bring families together. And so many more people like this are trying to help men to get their lives together and get onto the path that gets them the objective of what they want. They want families. They want children. They want one woman, or if their religion allows, a few wives, if you're Muslim. They don't want to be out there aimlessly wandering about the place. And if you're a man watching this and that's what you want too, well, we have to talk about this crisis because young black men are in trouble. And if you know a black man, by the end of this video, I want you to consider sharing this video with them because this can actually very much help them and give them some direction. Why are young black men in trouble? There's a few things that are going on with young black men. Young black men, here's what's going on. One, you have so many people, and this happened to me. I'll tell you my own story. When I was in high school, what was considered to be cool is all the guys who were doing drugs, sleeping with multiple women, and they were talking about, drugs and gun violence in the music. And then you had this music, it was hip hop or it was dance hall. Everything is bop, 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 violence, right? Who can be the most worst, which is like a race to the bottom. Who can be the least smart? Who can be, sag their pants the lowest? This is what's cool in high school. Who can be the most violent? Who can be the most disrespectful? Who can care the least about women? What are we teaching? This is what hip hop glorifies. So then when I come out and say I don't subscribe to that kind of culture, I'm black, I don't subscribe to sagging pants and dating multiple women and drugs and gun violence, I come out as being the one that's racist. That makes no sense. Let me tell you something. When I was in high school, I remember this is how I got the nickname Goodness, right? I got the nickname Goodness for this very reason. So there's a wall in my high school and everybody is going down the line. Badness, badness, badness. This is Jamaica. And all the guys are saying, yes, badness, badness, badness. Yeah, badness, badness, badness. And then he gets down to me. And in my mind, I don't subscribe to badness. And I had the wherewithal at 14, 15, 16 years old to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to dap you up for badness because that's not what I believe. At 15 years old, I was willing to go against an entire wall of young men who would tease me for not saying badness. And you know what I say? I said, no, I'm not dapping you up to badness because I'm not badness. I don't support that. And then he switched. So Goodness. And then I shook his hand and everybody on the wall cracked up. And then that's how I got the name Goodness. From then on, everybody called me Goodness. But that was an important lesson in my life. The important lesson was two. One, I recognized that I was willing from 14 years old to say, I don't care what you're doing. I am going to believe even if 100 people are against me. I'm going to believe what I believe because I know it to be right and true. And all of those people, they don't believe in badness. They're good guys. They come from two-parent households, never seen a gun in their life. They say badness because they're weak. But I had the mental fortitude at 15 years old to go ahead and say to this guy who was coming down the line, no, I don't believe what you believe. I don't care if you all are willing to tease me. I don't care if my status is reduced. I am going to stand in the face of all of you and say what I believe to be true. I'm going to go against the grain. And the second thing is that we have a problem as young black men because it's so cool to be bad that being goodness is something that is teased. Standing for justice and truth and honesty is something that is teased. That's what happened to me in high school. That's how I got the nickname Goodness. I think that's the best nickname I could have ever gotten in high school. No, I've been called worse names for different things. But that was one of my favorite nicknames, Goodness. And I hope it sticks with me forever. Moving from that, what I started to recognize is that goodness is actually what makes great men. What makes a man die for his country? Is it because he's bad or because he believes in what's right and what's good and he's willing to die for the things that he believes to be right and correct and just? It is the latter. Men who believe in goodness and righteousness and good things and are willing to die for it are the ones who change the world. So then we have a crisis amongst young black men, don't we? Because the music, the culture, is all it is promoting is drugs, violence, sagging your pants, disrespecting women. And I don't subscribe to any of that. Because then what does it lead to? Who all they want to talk about is how many women they got last week. They're not planning for a decade from now. All they want to talk about is, who did this with that girl and what I did and how many drugs I had. And if anybody stepped to me, I go bust him up and bust up his face. Ridiculous. That was going in high school. And you saw videos. Here are young men taking videos of other men fighting in high school, seeing who can fight the longest and who can fight the most and who can be the most violent in high school. And what happens to those young men? They end up in prison. Lives shot before they even turn 18. And here I am traveling the world, having a great time, not even 30 years old. Where are those young men who subscribe to badness? In jail? Still stuck? Can't go anywhere, can't leave the country, don't have a passport. You see the picture it paints. That's the problem. So then, if we're actually going to talk about this, what then would be the solution? Because if it continues like that, we are going to have a major problem on our hands. Young black men cannot be taught to not control themselves. Young black men cannot be taught to just do anything that they want to do. Young black men cannot be taught that violence is cool, because once they get into violence, the world will overlook them. There is no second chance for black men. You understand? There is no second chance for black men who mess up. May I remind you, Brock Turner, the swimmer, who molested that girl, he was defended by the judge, saying that he had such a wonderful swimming future ahead of him that it did not make sense to prosecute him because that would tarnish his reputation. That's a white man's privilege. Black men don't get that. Black men at 14 who make mistakes, they're tried as adults and they're sent to jail for 50 years, 25 years, for life. That's what black men get. When it comes to in crisis, here's what we as black men have to do, because I'm going to give you 3 solutions that are actually going to help you, which is why I want you to send this to fellow black men so that they can learn. 1, you need other black men, other black role models to keep you accountable. Go and find older black men who are married. Take women advice from them. Not the single man, not the one down the corner by the shop who is getting a bunch of women, bunch of pussy every weekend. Don't take advice from him. Because the results of that is a life that he's lonely. He won't tell you that, but he has no one to hold on a Friday night because he's lonely. He's miserable. He's full of drama. He's not at peace. Take advice from the man who has been married for 30 years, for 20 years. Take advice from them. Find your brotherly counsel. Take advice from people who have done what you want to do. Take financial advice from black men. Take marriage advice from black men. Take relationship advice from black men. People who have traveled, take advice from them. People who are physically fit, who are older than you, take advice from them. Choose your mentors very carefully. Your brotherhood, people who are your peers. Hang out with people who inspire you. If your friends are not discussing stocks, future, families, change your circle of friends. Your friends should not be discussing the latest Jordans, or all they're talking about is football and they get so emotionally riled up about who's their favorite team. That's not going to go anywhere. That is not a future. And there is no future in being a fan. Being a fan of a football team does not pay. You are watching other millionaires play a game. Think about that. Does that sound cool to you? Are you going to watch other millionaires play a game? Would you go and watch some teenagers at the back alley play a game? Because that's what they're doing. They're just getting paid millions of dollars. And look at you, so emotionally riled up for some people playing sports. Why don't you take the same emotion that you would feel for them and put it into your own passions? Find out what it is that turns you alive, that brings you and gives you fire in your stomach. Find out what that is. And the last thing As a young black man, you need to be careful about who you're dating. Be very careful about the partner that you choose to take on in your life. Your partner can make or break you. With the right partner, you can increase your wealth by up to 76%. A study was found. Don't you think the reverse is true? By choosing the wrong partner, you can seriously F yourself in the ass if you don't have the right partner. That's how serious it is. So I gave you 3 pieces of advice. At the end, told you this would happen. And this is the most important part. So that's why you had to stick to the end. Now, if you want to keep watching, there's a video for you. I think it's right here. And it's probably made specially for you. In fact, I know it's made specially for you because I picked it up personally. I'll see you in the next video. Keep watching.